Good evening everyone, and welcome to my second video on YouTube. You'll notice the surroundings are a wee bit different tonight. I've decided to not sit in my lounge in my pyjamas. I've decided to actually sit in my studio tonight. Tonight I'm going to be doing a video on my top 10 must-read books if you're an aspiring comic artist. If you're somebody that's just getting into comics, you're not really sure what to do, hopefully this list will give you an idea of kind of the different styles that are out there and pretty much let you know that anything goes. So hopefully this will be helpful, hopefully informative. Any questions, drop me a line down below and let's get into it. Okay, so kicking it off at book number 10, we have a relatively newish book called Monstrous. What I really love about this is just such beautiful artwork. It's I know I do have some followers on the likes of Facebook and Instagram that do love their manga. Generally, I'm not a big fan of that myself because it's quite polished and I'm just not really a fan. But this here, there is a very manga style to it. But it's just, I think it's just a beautiful blend of traditional. We're still reading this one. Traditional with the and digital. I think it's mostly traditional with a little bit of flourishing here and there with digital. Just a beautiful, beautiful book. Really well written, actually, as well. Just really, really cool. It's quite cool to see a fantasy that's quite different to what you'd normally get. There's a very Japanese flavour to it, which I quite like as well. So, you know, if you're looking for a sort of style that's just a bit different, and you do like your manga and anime styled work, this is definitely a book worth checking out. Okay, and kicking off at number 9, we have The Walking Dead, a fantastic story in its own right. What I really love about this and why I added this book to the countdown was it's all done in black and white, which to me, after watching the TV series, I was quite surprised about. But all the work is all done with the likes of Copic markers and watercolour, I think, and ink. And it's just very, very cool. And if you're starting your first book, you're not really sure how you want to do it. You're thinking black and white, but you don't think black and white looks good. This book is a glowing testament to just how good a black and white book is. Lovely, lovely drawing. And it's just as exciting without colour as I imagine it would be with it. But I do love the black and white. So this is an idea that if you're looking to do something black and white, this is a really good book or series to look at. So here we are, book 8. We have Plume, written again by Kaylin Smith. I've used her in so many of my videos that I've done. I just love her art style. This is a really good example of digital artwork. What she does is fully digital. Just an absolutely brilliant artist, brilliant writer. She's just a good master of her craft in terms of digital. I do like her use of colour, like when she's sort of in her pre-adventure world, it's very grey and bluey and not that exciting, but the more exciting things get, the more colour gets injected into the world, which I think is just very, very cool. So if you're looking at going digital, definitely look up Kaylin Smith and her series Plume. Yeah, fantastic series. Number 7, all-time favourite, The Watchmen. Cannot fault this book at all. It's amazingly written. The artwork is amazing. I haven't really included this book on the list just for its art. The art is by Dave Gibbons. I love the layouts. One thing I find really clever with what they've done is the cover page is basically the first frame, and then it just continues on, almost like a film. Brilliantly done. Brilliantly done. This is definitely one of my favourites, but it is on this list not just because of the art, but because of the very clever layouts that they've done. Going back to the first page, I don't want to show too much in case you haven't read it. I do love how they've done this. They've started off, the cover page, and then they've slowly zoomed out each panel. I just think that's absolutely brilliant. It's a really good way of telling a story, being very methodical, and yeah, I just love the way that it's done. This character here turns up throughout the story. There's so many good examples of that very slow, methodical approach. Yeah, it's just well done. Definitely give this a go. It's a wee bit different to the movie, but this came first. This is the Bible. This is the classic. Definitely should put that on your list as one to read. Number 6, we have The Swamp Thing. Again, very much like the Watchmen, although the artwork itself is beautiful, just stunning artwork, the reason why I've included this on this list is because of, where are we? Because of the layouts. If I can find a really good example here. So just the way they just flow from page to page. The colours are brilliant. The way they've done the borders, so you got a bit of the rot from the rot, which is the bad guys. You got that sort of coming through. You have also the vines, which signify Swamp Thing. One thing I do love though, and it's one thing that a lot of comics I think should do. You have your very nice, well drawn out panels here. Everything is all perfectly square. And then as things start to go, you've got your lovely panel there, but as you see there, it's just starting to deteriorate. And as things go from bad to worse, the frames themselves actually tell a big part of the story, which I think is actually very, very clever storytelling. And then you move over to where you have Swamp Thing, and you have all the tree branches. They almost look like butterfly leaves, which I think is very cool, which also goes with his wings. I just think that's just very clever layouts. Definitely look at, you've got the Alan Moore Swamp Thing, which is really nice as well. But the modern one, the new 52, it just had some very, very clever layouts and just very clever panel design. So definitely worth the number 6 spot. And here we are at number 5, one of my favourite comic artists. This is Dagon. It is written by H.P. Lovecraft, and the artwork is by Ben Templesmith. Now, this is a really good idea of what you can do if you're an artist and you're looking for a story, but you don't have any idea of what to write. What Ben did here, he found a H.P. Lovecraft story, which is public domain. Looked it up online as to what public domain means, but it basically means that once a creator has died, after a certain amount of time, their intellectual property becomes free for all, which is quite cool. Anyway, so what he's done is he's taken Dagon and he's done his own thing with it. Dagon itself is actually a very short story, but as you can see, Ben has beefed it up somewhat. This is the Kickstarter version as well that I have. I just love Ben's art style. What he does is basically the way that I used to work. He draws it all out and inks it all and paints it all. Then he scans into the computer and he uses Photoshop or some other art program, and he plays with the colours a bit. Just gives it a real mood. It's not really about having colours exact, which is something that I firmly believe in. Colours should be there to tell the mood. And it's just brilliantly done. I just love his work. Actually, my first book, if you look at my first book, Freak, it very much apes the style. But yeah, it's just great. And it's a really good example of both the digital and traditional artwork just kind of blending together. So really with comics, there's no limit to what you can do. Yeah, so if you're stuck, look for a public domain story and have some fun with it. And here we are at number 4. Now, there's not going to be a list of mine if Lone Wolf and Cub does not feature on there anywhere at all. Now, Lone Wolf and Cub was a manga written in the sort of 60s, 70s, a samurai epic. There's about 38 of these books. Oh, I keep knocking my tripod around. Okay, so about 30 odd books in this volume. this here is also another brilliant example of what you can do with black and white. So this is a very good mixture of sort of just a very fine line, fine detailed work. The way they start each book is with a bit of a painted section, just to ease you into it. Yeah, brilliant stuff. So this is just another fantastic example of what you can do with pen and ink and black and white. Doesn't need to be over the top with colour. It's also brilliant in terms of pacing as well. You know, it doesn't have to all be fast and furious. It can just be very, very slow and methodical. That is one of my all-time favourites, and a good example of black and white work. Okay, here we are down to number 3. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty now. Now this one here is something that's completely different from the other works. The other works I've shown have been pen and ink, or they've been digital. This one is something else altogether. This one is a bit of a mix of digital painting, as well as some oil painting. I'll see if I can find a good page. So this here is an oil painting. Lots of the pages in here have been painted with oil. There are a couple. This one here I'm pretty sure is digital painting, but in terms of a lot of it is actually painted with oil-based paint, which is just absolutely very cool. The story itself, I'm not really, like the writing, I'm not really a big fan of. It's almost too clever, like it's or trying to be too clever, but the artwork itself, I just absolutely love the artwork. This is another painted page here. This over here is a really, really big, intense book. I do love it, but going for the artwork. I think the artwork is really where this book shines, but well worth the number 3 spot. 2, we have Hellboy. I can't really say enough about Hellboy. I just love the colours. I love the big, dark, contrasting shadows. Mike Mignola is an amazing cover artist. It's pretty much like the cover basically tells you what's the meat of the story is. There's little story elements here. There's different locations. Just the way it just leads your eye around the page. It's just brilliant stuff. And it just doesn't stop at the cover either. Like when you go in, the pages are just exactly the same. They just lead your eye around, just very clever, lovely contrasting. I do love how you have your very sort of muted colours, and then you have Hellboy in this really bright, intense red. And then you have, like, you know, you got your grey tones here, and then you have little bits of yellow here and there just to make it stand out. It's just beautiful work. I do love this page here. I do love the lots of grey, and then got little bits of yellow. It's just great stuff. Great stuff. I do love the very thick, heavy, juicy lines. Even in black and white, I'd imagine that this would look just as amazing. Which, you know, a lot of it is. A lot of it's very monochromatic. Very much like Ben Templesmith. It's very much, the colour is there to sort of highlight the mood and to really make you feel something, as opposed to just being a red tablecloth or whatever. It's just very cool, and I do love it. He's brilliant at what he does. Very well researched. He definitely puts a lot of time into building his worlds, which I think that's probably another reason why I've got this at number 2. Yeah. Hellboy. Definitely worth the number 2 spot. And here we are at number 1. We have The Dark Knight Unwrapped by David Finch. So basically what this book is just his pencils. So there's a couple of pages here that are inked, but by and large, it's just all his pencils. Just such a huge inspiration. Like when I saw this book, I was in Australia on a family holiday, saw this book, had to have it. it just sort of shows you just how much work really goes into making a comic. Like it's they put so much detail into his work, very much like Mike Mignola. He's put so much work and research and done a lot of source work. There's just so much that goes on behind this. It's just amazing. Well, this is probably this is definitely my favourite book by far. So it's quite funny because when I was doing my early comics, I was very much like being Templesmith, but having sort of read this, I'm very much gone this way. You know, lots of detail, lots of emphasis on the backgrounds and environments, and little character details, and sort of learning how cards treat, and just little things like that just really help build the world. So yeah, this is my number one pick for sure. Not saying it's better than any of the other stuff that I've got. I do think some of the other stories out there are much better. However, I just love seeing the pencils. Like, this is basically the bare bones of a comic. So yeah, that is my number one pick, the David Finch The Dark Knight Unwrapped. So there we have it. That was my top 10 books to read for aspiring comic artists. I hope you got a lot of really good inspiration from that. I hope it was useful to you. Anyway, that's me for the night. I'm going to think of what I'm going to do for the next video. Any comments, any feedback, anything at all, just please drop me a wee line down below and I will get back to you. Thanks and have a good night.